Every element in Revit is considered a family. There are system families, component families, and in-place families. If I select a wall and pick the Element Properties button, you'll see that this is a system family here. And system families, like this wall, are already defined families and cannot be saved or shared with other projects. You can duplicate or reuse them in another project, but not save separately. In the element properties, the load button is grayed out. Selecting a door and looking at its element properties, you'll see that the load button is available and making it a component or standard family, which has an extension of RFA and are created outside of the project, stored in an external library, and can be loaded into a project. The load button is available here. Revit comes with a library of families that can be loaded. One way to load them is in the Insert tab. Pick Load Family, and there's a list of different family folders in the Imperial Library. We're going to take a look at the Furniture folder and load here a chair, the chair desk. Before we can see the chair, we'll need to change the visibility graphics for furniture. Here, there's no check mark in front of furniture, so that category is turned off. We'll go ahead and put a check mark in it and pick OK. Now we can go to the Home tab and place a component here, which will be this chair desk. Now we can see the chair. We can go ahead and place it in our drawing. In-place families are families that you create in place that we will cover later on in this class. You can view all of the loaded families in the project browser, which shows all of the categories and subcategories. Parameters are like settings. All objects have parameters that affect the object's behavior and description. You can change a family size, material, and graphic look, but it still stays the same basic type. To clean up this drawing for our presentation, I'm going to change the detail level from coarse to fine so that we can see the walls, and I'm going to here hide this category. You can change the instant or type parameters. Instant parameters are changes to one element that is selected. So here I'm going to select this door. I'll pick the element properties, and I can see here that it's an instant property. So I'll change the plan swing angle to 60 and see that just that door changes and not all the rest of the doors that are of that same type. This time I'll select the door, and here if we use this drop down we can pick instant or type. Just want to show you that there's an instant type dialog box here, but if I pick the edit type button, I'll be here able to view the type properties dialog box. You can duplicate a family and edit it, and it's common to then change the parameters and create a new family within the category door. And you can load several others from outside of this drawing. We will come back to working with families later on in this class. Let's take a look at constraints in Revit. Click on the dimension so that you can use this lock to lock that dimension in place. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We can also use the align command here to align objects. We'll align this wall to this grid line and lock it. Now when I move this grid, the wall moves with it. Another constraint is the pin tool to lock an element in place from moving. Keep in mind that a pinned or locked element can be deleted. So I'll go ahead and highlight this wall and pick this pin here. If I try to move it, I won't be able to because it's locked. When two walls are intersecting each other, they automatically clean up at the intersections and corners. You have several ways to disallow the join. One way is to select the end of the wall here, right-click and pick Disallow Join. Now, when I drag this wall to intersect the other wall, it won't clean up. It disallows it to join. We also have a split tool we can use here to split this wall. If we put a check mark inside Delete Inner Segment, we'll be able to select 2 points along that wall and see that that inner segment is deleted. Select your section cut and pick Split Segment to change the section view. I can select here, pull my mouse over, and pick again, and I can create kind of a zigzag in the section view. We can also, here, when the section is selected, use these blue grip arrows to change the extent of my section cut here and even here along the section cut itself. You can select more than one element by holding down the Control key. So I can hold the Control key down and select several elements within a drawing. You can use the Shift key to deselect those objects. Drag your mouse from left to right to select within a selection window, and from right to left to select anything that crosses that window and that's inside, similar to AutoCAD. If the elements are connected in a chain, like a wall, you can rest your pointer on one element and press the Tab key to select the chain. Here all of the walls are selected. A common practice is to select everything using a window selection, then use the filter icon at the bottom right to select specific elements by their categories. I'll pick Check None, and then here I can put a check mark in front of doors and pick OK, and only the doors will be selected within that window. You can also select one door and right-click and pick Select All Instances to change all of the doors that are of that same family in the entire model. Select a door and use Create Similar to create a door that's similar to the door that we have selected. You can change the location of temporary dimensions in relation to doors, windows, and walls by going to the Manage tab under Settings and Temporary Dimensions. Here you can change the wall from faces to center lines and how the temporary dimensions appear. Also, you can change the doors and windows to be dimensioned to the openings instead of the center lines. In your drawing, when you see temporary dimensions, you can use the little blue grips to hold your left mouse button down and drag your mouse over to change the temporary dimension location. When I select a chair and use the Move tool, we have several options here. If we use check mark and constrain, when we move this chair, we're going to be limited to horizontal and vertical movement. If we take the check mark out of constrain, we'll have more flexibility in moving the chair here at different angles. If you need to move a door into another wall, then use disjoin to move hosted elements to another host. Here. I was able to move the door by using the disjoin command. Use the arrow keys to move an element by a scale factor that relates to how close or far you are from that element. I'm picking the arrow keys on the keyboard to move that element. Of course, you can select an object, hold your left mouse button down on that object, and drag and drop it to a new location, or edit the temporary dimensions here and see that the chair moves. You can also use the space bar to rotate that chair. The space bar can be used for several other functions, like flipping a wall. When you select a wall and it shows these arrows here, the orientation of the exterior of this wall would be on the side that the arrows are showing. If I use the space bar, I can change the orientation of the wall by flipping it. I can even select chair door and use the space bar to flip and rotate the door. When you select an element to rotate, the origin is already established by Revit to be the center of the element. You can drag its new origin location before picking points here to establish a different center of rotation. Now I can left click, pull my mouse over here and left click and rotate the chair. While you're rotating and dragging here the center of rotation to a new location, you don't have access to the zoom and pan commands. One option is to drag the origin into the project browser, then use your zoom commands to zoom out a little bit further, and left click for a new center of rotation. Now I can left click here for my beginning of rotation and here for my end. I'll use the space bar to rotate my chair and move it close to this wall. I'll put a check mark in the options bar in front of moves with nearby element. By doing that, I'm locking the chair into the location of the wall. So as I move this wall, which remember we locked and aligned to the grid, we can move the grid, the wall moves, and now the chair will also move because we have a check mark in moves with nearby element. There are other commands that are nested within chapters 1 through 3. Scaling, trim, extend, mirror, array, offset. Several of those commands are very similar to AutoCAD commands. Always watch your options bar for additional choices within each tool, like the split tool that had the option to delete the inner segment. Always watch your options bar for additional choices. There's so many other tools to talk about, but for now, in this first Module 1 class video, we are covering some of the basics to continue building upon in this advanced Revit class. As always, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions.